Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Cast Iron Cookware. And I also want to say welcome to the Pancake. Today I'm going to be continuing the theme of Birmingham Stove and Range because today I actually found a Century Series Blue Ribbon biscuit pan. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about it and a few more pieces that you probably haven't seen before on Birmingham Stove and Range. So we're going to be doing that coming right up. Okay, I'm really excited today because I ran across a piece that I really wasn't sure what it was until I got a closer look at it. And that is my Century Series Blue Ribbon biscuit pan. Now it is a Birmingham Stove and Range, and I'm going to let you get a good close-up view of it. Now it's kind of crusty. It's not been cleaned yet. There's actually 8 cups and probably about 1.5 inches deep or so. It is pretty straightforward. It's Century Series and it was made in the 1980s, probably the late 1980s. And I wouldn't be surprised to say that they only made these for just a little while, maybe 2 or 3, 4 years tops, because Birmingham Stove and Range went out of business in 1991. So that may be why these are not around very much. And usually when I see a piece like this, in my mind, I'm thinking Asian, because it just doesn't look like American craftsmanship. But thanks to Jason Walker's book, so I really found this to be really cool. I just want to give a shout out to Jason Walker for his book, and I'm really hoping that he will start publishing these in a wider range so people can get their hands on it, because it has been really helpful to me. I was really excited to run across this piece. Now I've got to clean it up, and hopefully I'll be showing the process of me cleaning this thing up and re-seasoning it, and hopefully even cook some biscuits in it. That'll be exciting. So really excited about that piece, and I'm just very thankful that I found it. And believe it or not, I found it for $5. They marked it down. It had another price on it. They marked it down to $5 to, I guess, clear it out, because they may not have known what it was. That's the thing. Educate yourself so when you run across a piece, you'll know what it is. And I just want to give a shout out to the mason jar. And it's the mason jar in Boaz, Alabama, where I found this. Now they don't have a lot of cast iron, and this here is a good tip to remember. If you're looking for cast iron and you go into an antique mall or flea market and there's not a lot of cast iron, if you find a piece or two, chances are you're going to get a great deal. Now, if you go into a place and they have 50 pieces hanging on the wall, kind of like I've got 100 or so, somebody like that knows what it's worth, and they're going to be asking premium prices. Now, I'm sure a lot of times they'll come down, but most of the time when you see a great big stash, they know what they got. But you go to a place that only has 1 or 2 pieces, you may pay $5, $10 for them and come up with some really good pieces. So that's a good tip when looking for cast iron. But I do want to just give a shout out to the mason jar of Boaz, Alabama, where I found that piece. And their motto is, you never know what you'll find. That is absolutely true. You never know what you'll find when you walk into a place. So even if a place doesn't seem to have cast iron, check it out. You'll be surprised. There may be one little booth that's got one little piece, and it's one that you're looking for. Let me go on to a couple more pieces that you may have not seen a whole lot of when it comes to BSR. Now here is one that is a really big surprise to me. I may have shown it before, and it is a Century Series Sizzle Server, and this is what the markings look like on the back. Now this one has got the Made in USA in the middle. I've also seen them with Made in USA at the top. Of course, we have our size markings right here, and we don't have a ridge, but this is the way the handle is shaped. And this one here is a little bit shorter than most Sizzle Servers, and it has a little more of a rounder, fatter shape. And this one here has some pitting in it on the sides. and it has a pretty good pit right here on the edge. Now, this friend of mine that I got these from, and I'll give a shout out to Jeremy Ulbrich. If you're a member of any of the Facebook groups, you have seen him trading a lot of cast iron. But this piece right here with the little nick in it, Jeremy said he had several of these that he bought at one time, and every one has the mark right here in the same place. So it tells me that likely it was nearing the end of this pattern, and they just kept using it until they just couldn't use it anymore. And that was the end of them. So we don't see a whole lot of those, and I'm really excited to have this one. Even with the casting flaw, to me, it's still special and collectible. Now, it was probably made, and I'm just going to guess, has the center made in USA. It was probably made in the 80s. I'm just guessing now. So there's another piece that you won't see very often. It is a handled griddle. Now, I believe this one right here, now it's kind of pitted a little bit, and it's got a little bit of swirl marks where it was milled, but it has some issues, and it has a little hollow space on the bottom, so when it sits on the stove, and there is the, I guess you'd say, the profile. And then, of course, the back, there's no markings on this one. Now, it is a little bit on the rough side on the outside, but it has been milled on the cooking surface. And there's a good look at the handle on the front and the handle on the back. So this one here is probably most likely a Century Series Birmingham Stove and Range piece, but I'm not going to count out the possibility of it being Atlanta Stove Works. Now, Atlanta Stove Works and Birmingham Stove and Range were owned by the same people. And there was a time where Century Series pieces and Atlanta Stove Works pieces were sold in the same store under different names, BSR and ASW. Owned by the same people. One was a little more expensive than the other, one was a little less. I believe the Atlanta Stove Works might have been a little less, but I'm not really sure. And I think that one may possibly be Atlanta Stove Works because it doesn't have any size marking on it. Now, these pieces don't have the ridge on the handle, and that's one reason why I wanted to show them off a little bit. Now, I haven't cleaned these up. They need some work, but this one right here is a Red Mountain stove griddle. Now, it's kind of small. It's a number 8, but it's a lot smaller than what you would think a number 8 would be, and the marking has an 8D on the back. It has a little bit of a outer heat ring to it. And here's the profile of the handle, and there is what the handle looks like on the front. We're just going to roll it right around so you can get a good look. And there's what the handle looks like on the back. Now, that is a stove griddle, and it seems like it feels a little small for a number 8. It feels like a 7, but it's actually an 8, and I got a little casting pit right there. Not an issue. Like I've said many times before, most of my pieces are not perfect. You know, there's another thing I want to mention too. You run across pieces occasionally, and I have been guilty of saying this, those are not collectible, or it doesn't have any collectible value, but really cast iron was designed to use. And if it has a use, it's still collectible, even if it has issues. Now, some things are higher in collectability than others. So I don't want to say just because a piece is substandard, or like this one here that has the little issue in it, that it's not collectible. No, it's still collectible. Something that I've had people ask me a whole lot, and that is with chicken fryers. Now, here's a Birmingham Stove and Range chicken fryer. Now, here we have what we're used to seeing, the telltale ridge on the back of the handle. Of course, we have the teardrop hanger hole. We also have the Century Series descriptive size markings. Now this one here needs a little bit of tender love and care, but we do not have a heat ring. And I have seen people say, well, I've got this pan, it looks like a BSR, but it doesn't have a heat ring, so it's not a BSR. There are exceptions, just like there are exceptions to this ridge on the handle. The chicken fryers, even the Red Mountain versions, do not have a heat ring. They're smooth bottom, just like the Dutch ovens. I have even seen a few skillets that have smooth bottoms, and the debate is out there on whether or not those are Birmingham Stove and Range, but I personally believe that they are Birmingham Stove and Range. Now this is a Century Series chicken fryer, but the Red Mountain chicken fryer, even though it's older, still does not have a heat ring. And it will have an 8 and then a mold mark, just like any other Red Mountain. Of course, this one right here is a Century Series lid, and you can tell because the dimples are not random and they radiate out in a direct pattern. Plus it has the descriptive size, marking in the center. Let me show you a lid, Red Mountain. See how random? And that is a little bit of a difference right there. We also talked about how the Dutch ovens, Birmingham Stove and Range, do not have a heat ring. And here's a Century Series Dutch oven. Now, if this had been a Red Mountain, it would just have an 8 and probably a mold mark. But this one has the descriptive size on the back. Of course, with Birmingham Stove and Range, you will have this little number right here, a pour spout on your Dutch oven. Of course, you'll have your little tab on the back side. So smooth bottom on the Dutch oven, smooth bottom on the chicken fryer. And one thing I really love about Birmingham Stove and Range, the lids for the Dutch ovens have the little pour spout covers for the skillets. So a Dutch oven lid is a skillet lid. They'll both work and interchange. So if you only have one lid and you have a Dutch oven, a chicken fryer, and a skillet, all the same size, it will work on all three. I just want to give you another little bit of information. The Red Mountain series will run from 1930s up until the 1950s. Now, I believe some were made even in the 1920s when they were getting started. Century Series started in the mid-century, which I believe started in 1950-ish, maybe 1954, and run all the way up until the end of production. But there was a little bit of time there where Red Mountain and Century overlapped, and you won't really be able to pin down those years right there in the middle because of the overlap. They had molds that they used left over from the Red Mountain that they used along with the Century, and we just can't really pin it down the exact year when Red Mountain went away, but we know the years when Century came into play. But either way, this was a short little video, and I hope that you got something out of it. I just wanted to share the piece that I found today. Really, really excited about it. And don't forget, you can also follow Cast Iron Cookware on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check out the Cast Iron Cookware Facebook group. And you can also sign up for the Cast Iron Cookware email that I'll send out every week or so to kind of update you on things happening with this channel. And I just want to say thank you again for watching Cast Iron Cookware. Before we go, I just want to share something with you really quickly. In Psalms chapter 40, verse 1 through 3, it says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. He brought me up also out of an horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and established my goings. And he hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise of our God. Many shall see it and fear, and shall trust in the Lord. I just want to say, go share the word and be a blessing.